Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Now in the previous video we went ahead and we migrated to Vue 3 and Vuetify 3, adding Vite and some basic configuration. Now in this video what I want to do is to go ahead and add one of the components that we previously had, which is a login component, and we are going to cheat slightly, ever so slightly, and just add this Vuetify login form, which is on the Vuetify docs, and it's just make it much simpler and easier for us to work with. We'll just configure it a bit so that it's more personalized, and that we can change a few stuff on it, and then some additional functionalities. For example, passing the information that is submitted up to the parent component so that that could be used by the user in whatever way that they want to. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this to the clipboard, and we're going to go ahead and actually I'm going to create a new branch for this. So we're going to call it new login, and we'll just go ahead and open this in Vim. I'm going to go to the VFC login, and we're going to delete everything in here, paste that in. I'm going to be using the composition API from now on with this. So let's go ahead and do a setup script, and we can remove all of that, and we can add const here and equal. We're gonna put ref here because this should change. So let's do that, close that out, and we need to import ref from Vue, Vue, and that should be it. So let's save this. We already have the VFC login here on the main in our playground, so we don't have to change anything here. So what I'm gonna do is to just go ahead and do a yarn build and a yarn ser and yarn play. So this goes ahead and builds the library, and then they will go ahead and run the playground. So let's go ahead and run that. Alright, so if we go over here and go to localhost 3000, now we should be seeing our beautiful component that we, yes, a little bit borrowed essentially. So that's pretty much it. We are now going to configure this a bit so that it works better for us. So some of the things that we want to do is to allow the user to actually change this image. We want them to be able to change the whole anything. I think if they don't want the logo itself, they can also remove it. But we don't want to just add props and props and props, because we don't want to just have so many of them. So we're gonna use a scope slot in order to accomplish that. So let's go ahead and do so. And this is going to be, well, a named slot essentially, name slot I should say. And this one is just gonna call it logo. That should be relatively simple, and we'll just close this out. This should be closed there. All right, there we go. So that's awesome. So if they don't want this, they just add it in, and then just leave it empty essentially. And in addition to that, maybe, just maybe, we don't want this exact text here, so we will also want to put a slot on here as well. So I'm gonna call this one notice. So for example, if the user wants to say once you log in, then you agree to our terms and policy or whatever. So that's a way that in which that could be handled as well. I also do not want these to link to anything, so I want to disable that. So I'm actually going to add a style on these links here. So let's do a style, and this is where it's going to be pointer events. I'm gonna set this to none because we just don't want it to do anything essentially. I'm gonna put it on this one as well. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna open our terminal and do a yarn build and yarn play. And so now if we hover over this, we don't see that hand coming up. And here, nothing has changed, but we're gonna do some configuration now so you can see how it would actually change. So open this to the side. Hopefully it's not too small. When I go over to the playground in here, and for one, I want this to be centered, or at least in the middle of the page. I don't want it to be over to the side. Now for the slot, in order to first to work with that, we have to close this out. So let's close that out, and from here we just go ahead and add a template in here, and we just put in that. Then we're gonna put the name of the slot, or the name slot, and this one is going to be logo. So we just put logo there, and given that we don't want anything in it, let's say for argument's sake we don't want anything in it, so we're gonna put an empty div or empty whatever, and save this. And now we should be able to just replay this. I'm just gonna do a yarn bill and replay because I don't want to have to retype it. And now as you can see, the logo is gone, or you could just change it to whatever else that you want. It's really up to you at the end of the day how you want to work with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove that. I don't want it in there. I'm gonna leave it as is. So let's just leave it as so. All right, so what I want to do now is to go ahead and add a little bit of functionality to this, so that we'll be able to, for example, submit the information and pass it up to the user. So we want to add an identifier. This is what I'm going to be calling it for the email or username. So for example, maybe you want to use an email, maybe you want to use an identifier, a username or whatever, or a phone number or whatever. So I don't necessarily want to call it just email. So I'm gonna say identifier for this one. It's gonna be empty. I also want the password as well. So let's do password. It's gonna be the same thing, and we can just come down here and put a V model. And one of the things that you'll notice that I'm not actually trying to let this lint properly or whatever, or be formatted properly, and that's because moving forward what we're going to be doing is going to add Vuetify and Prettier or whatever, not Vuetify, Prettier and ESLint, and that will be our format or whatever. So we don't necessarily want to we want those rules to be applied, so we're gonna leave it pretty much as is. Now gonna look a little bit ugly or whatever, but for now we'll just leave it as is. So we just put identifier in here, identifier, and the same thing is going to be coming down to this one, password field. We just change this to password, and we can just save that now. And what we want to do is to actually pass information up when we do a submit. So we have to have a form in here. So let's create a form. I want you to close the thing for me. Yeah, there we go. And we'll just bring this down here as well. So let's paste that in there. I want to go back up here now and put a at submit here handler. So we want to do a prevent because we don't want it to refresh, and we'll just create a function called submit login because that's what we're doing. We could just image from here, but what I want to do is actually add some validation to this. So I'm gonna actually just put a ref of form on here. You could name that whatever you want, but for now I'm gonna just put as form. In addition to that, we also want to make this a submit button, so we're gonna change the type of this to submit, so that when we submit, so that will give us the submit ability. So we go ahead now and just create this login function. It's not gonna take anything. We are pretty much just going to be emitting, so we want to actually do that as well. So let's go up here and do const emits, and we're gonna define emits, and the one that we're going to be defining is going to be called submit login. And I think we have to use this way of doing it. I want to believe, not 100% sure, with the dash as well, which is fine. Looks nice and all. So in here we are going to be doing we're gonna say emits, and what we're going to be emitting is our submit login. As you can see, it's already there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass the information up there as an object. So we want the identifier, and this is going to be identifier. Where is that? Identifier dot value, and then for the password is going to be password. Where did that go? Password dot value as well. So that's pretty much it for that. We're gonna add the validation as well, some amount of validation, but for now this is all that we're going to be wanting from there, so we can test it out, so you'll be able to see. So we're gonna do a at submit login, because that's what we are emitting. So submit login, and then we're gonna call a function. And what you don't want to do here is to add the parentheses, or else you won't get the information as you should. Let's go ahead and add our script setup here. So set script. Why can I not get this completed? All right, so let's just I have to do that, and then script. All right, and from here we can just create a login function, which is going to take in some data that's going to be passed in here. And what we're going to do, at least for now, we'll just go ahead and console.log, and we're going to do we're just gonna say login data, and just pass the login there so that you can look at it and see what exactly it is. And that is pretty much going to be it for this. So let's just save all of that, go over here and do a yarn bill and yarn play. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the console now, and we can enter something in here, password for example, and then when we click on here, we are seeing nothing, because this thing should let's see here, why are we not seeing anything? At submit login, we're gonna do login, and that space should not have any effect on it. Let's see if we miss something here, because this should be, oh, mistake. So this should be type, not types. All right, my mistake there. So let's go ahead and rebuild this. And now when we go ahead and click something and or enter something and password, click here. There we go. So now you're able to see the data and our login data and the information is passed over to us. So the user can do whatever they want with that. Now, all right, let's say for argument's sake, what we want is a username and not necessarily an email. So what I want to do is to put, for example, a placeholder to say whatever we want. So I'm gonna do a define props, and I'm not gonna assign it to anything, because we're not gonna use it inside of the script here. So we're gonna do a we're gonna leave it just as is, and we want two placeholders, one for the identifier and one for the password. So we'll just say identifier placeholder, and this is going to have a type of string, and the default value is going to be an, we're gonna say email, for example, email at example.com, which should be fine. Again, this should be changeable. So what did I just, email at example.com should be fine, and we'll just add our second one here, and this one is going to be password, and this one is just going to say enter your password, and that should be that. Now we can go down here and just change this out to be more dynamic, and it will just change this to identifier placeholder, and then we'll just copy that down and just put it right here because I'm lazy, and we'll just change this to password placeholder. So that should be that. Save that over here, and then we'll just go over here now and just put identifier placeholder, and this should actually have a dash separating it, and then we can do identifier placeholder. Well, we need to put information actually because it's not going to be dynamic, so we'll just put the information here, which is going to say enter username, because for example that's what we're using. So we just save this. That should not work because we need to rebuild this. So we're gonna go ahead and rebuild it. If you notice, it didn't change anything. So now when it's rebuild, you'll see that it says now enter username and password. Now, one of the things that will happen is that if we go ahead and submit this, it goes ahead and it does the submitting, and we have nothing. But we actually want to be able to say, well, we need you to have to enter the information. So I want it to be required. And I'm gonna go over here and just go to search for validate in the documentation here, and one of these should be it. Let's click on one of these. I think what I want is actually form validation. So let's go back over here and let's find components and forms, and there we go. I think these are it at the bottom here. So what I want is I'm gonna look at the code. I just want something as simple as this, like rules here. That's pretty much it. Let's go over to this. I'm gonna paste it right under here. Could make this global, but I'm gonna just keep it simple and just add it to them individually. And if we save this and go ahead and do that, I'm gonna rebuild it. This is just gonna give us the warning essentially. So for example, if we click in here and come out, it will say the item is required. However, if we click on it, it will give us the warning now, but still not give us anything. So we want to actually prevent it from being submitted in the event that nothing was passed in here, that it wasn't valid. So what we want to do here is to change this to an async function, because we have to await on the form. But even before doing that, I need to actually also create the form to map to the ref that we have there. So we're gonna say ref of, just set this as null. So this is going to map to this here, and now we can do const, and we just get whether or not it is valid. So we do an await here, and we can say form that value that validate. We'll just call that as a function, and we can say if valid, that's the only time that we are going to be submitting this thing here. So that's pretty much going to be it. So we can save this, and we can go back over here now and do a yarn build and yarn play again. Alright, so now when we click on here, you can see that it now gives us that warning and no information is console logged to us. So if we now go ahead and fill this out, ensure that it's correct, and put a password or whatever in here, click on submit, now you can see that it actually gives us information. One of the things that would be great to be done is we have a custom validator for email. So if for example what we're using in here is an email as opposed to a username, we could detect that and then add a custom validator rule for checking for an email as well. That is something that we could add later on in the future. If you guys want to contribute adding that, that would be awesome as well. You can just open and issue a pull request for that, and that would be great. And I think that is pretty much going to cover everything that we want to do for this video. We can look into some additional stuff that could be added, but for the basic functionality, I think that this is pretty awesome so far. So that should do it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.